Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Jordan Brown. Jordan, excited to have you on the show.
Oh, man, thank you so much. I'm really excited to see where the conversation goes today. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You're doing so many phenomenal things. So I know as the conversation flows, we're going to end up in really phenomenal places. So, of course, before we jumped into the interview, I want to read a little bit more about Jordan so you can hear about some of those awesome things. And it really boils down to one trait: confidence. As a result of experience, humble beginnings, a damn hard work ethic, and a deep passion for genuine relationships built on trust. And that right there is the essence of Jordan Brown. Talk to any of his friends, colleagues, or clients, and they will tell you that Jordan is absolutely in his element as CEO of Jet Agency, pursuing his childhood dream and always doing everything possible to make sure his clients are completely taken care of. Because for Jordan, that is literally everything. A genuine professional relationship built on trust and a mutual appreciation for premium quality at every opportunity. Jordan knows this industry. After all, he grew up in it ever since he began washing airplanes at the age of 11 to score a ride in the skies above. Rides turn to conversations, conversations turn into friendships, and friendships turn into long lasting professional relationships. He continues to treat every traveler as a longtime friend, sometimes driving for hours just to help and personally send them off to safely. And it is easy to see that he loves helping people and would do whatever it takes to make their day. Now, it is one thing to stay current within an industry, but Jordan is a true visionary. He has his sights set on pioneering an unprecedented approach to the charter flight experience and forever transforming the industry. And absolutely, who doesn't love, people that have put in their 10,000 hours starting at the age of 11, which is absolutely awesome. I think I read that this led to your first startup, Airplane Aesthetics, if I'm right. And
Yeah.
it's always great to hear that not only you're doing good, but you also give back as well too. And I think the things that you're passionate about, that you and your wife are passionate about, like teen homelessness, I really love, of course, to hear all the awesome things you're doing. Love even more that you're making such a huge impact in the world today. So Jordan, excited to have you on the show. Are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
You got it, buddy. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you. So I wanted to kind of kick everything off by rewinding the clock a little bit. I know it touched on it a little bit, but I wanted to hear a little bit more about your story. We'll let you get started with all the awesome work you're doing.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I grew up near a small airport. It did not service commercial airlines. It was just, little 172s. My grandparents lived on one side of the airport. My parents lived on the other. So I would ride my bike back and forth, and it clearly became my passion. Wanted to become an airline pilot at first, so started washing and detailing airplanes in Louisville, Kentucky, to earn flight time, and it was a great way to earn extra money. And I would skip school just to be out at the airport. Later on in high school and stuff. So from there, just have moved through the aviation industry. So.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think the quote is, find something you love to do. You never work a day in your life. And I love that even, being able to kind of get out of school. Most people were doing other things. I love that you found yourself there, and immersed in the industry and all the passionate things that I imagine just still fuel you today.
Without a doubt. And it's the same drive as when I was, 11, 13 years old. It's still the same excitement. Every time I go out to the airport, I'm headed out today to meet a client. You still get the same butterflies. It's just amazing that these piece of machineries can go up there and fly around the world. So it's very fascinating.
Yeah, and I imagine it's even more fascinating that you get to be around it, on a daily basis and get to interact with people and have those, really great relationships and experiences as well too. So I wanted to drill down a little bit more, hear a little bit more about Jet Agency. Could you take us through a little bit more on how you're serving the clients, how you're making that impact?
Sure, absolutely. We've been in what's called the on-demand jet charter business, and that just essentially means you call us up, we give you a quote on how much it would cost from DC maybe to Miami, which roughly about 15 to 20,000 for a one way on a jet that seats 6 to 8 people. And you never have to call us again, right? That's been our previous business model, and one of our companies still operates that way today. But Jet Agency is really a higher pedigree experience than just a one-off. This is folks that make a deposit of somewhere around $250,000 to become a member of Jet Agency, and they have a fixed hourly rate. And there's the relationship is much more cemented. right? Not that we don't take care of our people that fly once a year on demand charter, but jet agency is really a long term relationship, right? And a higher pedigree of experience, higher pedigree of aircraft. And it's also a great model to where you don't have to own your own aircraft and you don't have to own a fraction of an airplane. It essentially works as a debit card. As you fly your hours, your statement, is debited essentially.
Yeah, I appreciate you breaking that down and really understanding that. I feel like just like with anything, the more you spend time, like if you go get a haircut, and the more times you get a haircut, you walk in and you start to build that connection and relationship. And I imagine that same things happen is where you have that membership, you have those relationships that are being built, and you're starting to fly and get to know. I feel like it really deepens the more time you're able to kind of lock into that.
I'm 42 now. So if I started when, 11 to 18 is when I really was washing airplanes. Early 20s, I started getting into jet charter. Um, I have clients that I've known for 20 years now, when their kids were little. I've been to weddings, assistants that I work with. I've vacationed, with them and they've vacationed with my families. It's unbelievable the intimate relationship that comes out of, flying private. Because if you think about it, let's say these guys live in a $4 or $5 million home. There's not much in life where you're spending, $8,000 an hour. So you get very much involved in making sure that everything is executed properly. With assistants, we're a team with assistants. We want to make them look good, and be there for them. So it's a real teamwork when, trying to assist their CEOs and their principals.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I imagine, and I would love to hear more on like how that process goes and, how you serve them. But I imagine just because you're already probably juggling so many different things, the people that are probably, CEOs and entrepreneurs, business doing really phenomenal things, probably juggling a lot of things to be able to not have to worry about that kind of quote unquote have that off their plate where they can have that great experience is probably, can't be understated.
Uh, Without a doubt, you're exactly right.
Yeah, absolutely. So could you take us through like so people have the membership and they pretty much reach out to you and you guys kind of take everything from there. Could you take us through what that looks like?
It is. They simply, go to our website, send us a text message. They give us about a 48-hour notice that says, "Hey, I need to go from Boston to Palm Beach," and they have an aircraft there at what time they want it there. They say 11 a.m. That airplane is there at 11 a.m. to take them to Palm Beach, and if that's about a almost a 3 hour flight. They have their locked in rate of somewhere around 6,000 an hour, and that's what they're charged. We also provide ground transportation. We provide catering, and any type of services that they're going to want to make their travel a lot easier.
Yeah, and that really, the word that again comes to me is that experience where you get to have, there's so many things that you have to juggle. I imagine, being in any type of leadership, but especially being a CEO, but to be able to kind of again have that partnership, that friendship, that relationship that's been cemented, you don't have to worry about those things, and you get to have that great experience when you're going to, maybe have a big deal or you're to pitch a product, whatever it might be. You don't have to worry about those things. You get to stay present in the thing that you ultimately need to do.
You got it. And response time is so important. Our clients do not. They're paying for the commodity of time, right?
Right.
That's why they fly private. So we don't have the luxury of getting back to people an hour later when they call or email. If you could picture kind of NASA mission control, that's exactly what our staff is, right? With client services, as we call them. They send an email and they want a salad or something on board. We're responding. Our average response time is 9 minutes. Uh,
Nice.
so that's what is required of myself and the team. I still get involved in the weeds and enjoy it. So a lot of times the staff tries getting me out of the weeds, but I like it. I enjoy it so much. So
Yeah, absolutely. You've been doing it for how many years since you were 11? So you know that you love it. You know that you want to be around it. So again, it's like that magnet that keeps calling and pulling you back. I imagine.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So you touched a little bit upon what I think might be your secret sauce. This could be for the organization yourself or a combination of both. But is it that kind of awareness of I think the commodity of time and how powerful that is, but also how you can create that experience for the your clients, your customers, those relationships you've been able to build. Do you feel like being locked in and understanding that and being able to kind of execute on that is part of your secret sauce?
I think it goes well beyond that. Um, for me, I'm a recovering micromanager, right? I'm 5 years in recovery. I think part of the secret sauce is I'm not sure where I read it, and I'm not a great reader. I love the fact that a lot of CEOs read books. They're like, I read 5 books this year. I haven't. It's not a strength of mine, but it's something that I certainly want to build on and get a discipline of reading more books. But somewhere I read that management is like a rubber band, and if you pull it too tight, it's going to break. But if you leave it on the desk, it's not doing its job. So there's some happy medium here in the middle of management, and that's really, I think, been a secret sauce for me over the past couple of years. And it sounds cliche-ish, but also failure. I've had a lot of failures this year. It's been a rough year for me personally and professionally. So learning a lot, not to chase revenue, but to chase, the P&L and chase profit instead of growth at all cost. I think we've seen a lot of companies, the Ubers of the world that, have got a ton of investment and they operate in the negative for years. Some of these companies never get profitable. We just saw WeWork file bankruptcy this week. Uh, I got sucked into that a little bit over the past few years. And it made a lot of mistakes there. So I think we can look at today's environment that it is no longer cool just to have as much revenue as possible, right? As you look at WeWork and stuff. So I'm hoping to utilize some of that secret sauce the next year or two to really focus on the profit of the business.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing so much of that, and the quote unquote inside baseball, getting that perspective that you don't always see. And I think that as you kind of go through and see from the outside, sometimes the companies that are growing and building and doing all these things, you don't necessarily see like what the vitals are, for lack of a better term, of like what's actually
Right.
happening, and if you're going to do the mission ultimately that you were made to do, like what you created it to do. If you aren't kind of within a healthy place, you're not going to be able to make the impact that you ultimately hope to make.
That's right. It's funny you say vitals. I think my vitals were flatlined this past year. So I've learned a lot, and it's been a huge learning year for me.
Yeah, I appreciate you, sharing that, and I hope to kind of, hear more about, some of those lessons, and of course, on and beyond, this as well too. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I want to ask you for maybe one of those things, which is called a CEO hack. So it's a little bit more of an app. It may not be a book or that you mentioned it, but it might be a habit that you have. But what's something that you lean on that makes you more effective and efficient?
It's got to be our KPIs, data. We're a very data driven company. Private aviation tends to be very antiquated. DocuSign is the new revolution in private aviation for signing contracts. We're very much technology forward, but I would say it's the Power BI type app, Domo, business intelligence app is crucial. And I ignored a lot of that this past year, and it got me into trouble. So that's what I would say is going to be mission critical.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I know, usually with, all the things that are with running a business and leading a team and make sure clients are in place, it could get really hard to, make sure that you are kind of staying in tune and make sure you're paying it even attention to the right KPIs. How have you seen, or do you anticipate, like, how are you going to be able to be more locked in, going into those?
I think when I haven't been locked in this past year, uh, it hurt a lot of people, right? It hurt people from the standpoint of resignations or having to make cuts by not being locked into the KPIs more. So if that's not motivation, I don't know what is.
Yeah, absolutely. When you start to see like what impact that you're making, and how, and in order to do that, do you feel like it's also really important to make sure you're selecting the right KPIs, to make sure that you are like paying attention to those things?
I think that's a really great point because some KPIs are irrelevant to our business model, but certainly cost per acquisition is a big one. retention rate. We're a sales organization, right? Our mission on a daily basis at Jet Agency is to sell jet charter, jet membership. So very sales driven KPIs. It can say who's responding the quickest out of our sales team, but I would say mainly those sales KPIs and how the sales team's performing.
Yeah, that's huge, and I think if you don't pay attention to those KPIs and you don't even know what they are, let alone tracking them, it's
Yeah,
hard to sometimes see what can be improved or what sometimes went wrong. And that's why I love how you have those things set in place because you automatically are able to say, okay, we need to be more locked in on this, or we need to be more locked in on that, or less locked in on this. But if you're not tracking those things, if you're not paying attention to those things, if you don't understand how important that is, then it makes it really hard you know to pivot or change or make whatever adjustments you need to get to where you want to be.
without a doubt, you're exactly right.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, what would you consider to be what I like to call a CEO nugget? This is a little bit more word of wisdom or piece of advice. I usually say it might be something if you were to hop into a time machine, you might tell your younger business self.
I think grace is a huge one. It's giving grace to the staff that might be having a bad day, a client that might be having a bad day. I tell the team all the time, look around. Your teammates are going through something. You might feel like you're the only one struggling personally or professionally. It's not true. I try to be extremely transparent and vulnerable. Um, and that would be my nugget is vulnerability as a CEO, and making sure the team understands that everybody's going through something. You got to be there for your teammates, regardless.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful, and often you find like even in doing these episodes, often say people forget about the human part of business, and of course KPIs are important, and analytics make sure you have your profit. All those things are important, but when we get down to like the nitty gritty of what we're doing, we're helping out people, whether you're talking about clients or customers or the people that are on the team. So I love that grace piece because I think by giving ourselves grace, but also giving other people grace, I think it creates a better environment, a really great environment where you do have that human part that's celebrated. You do ultimately get to make the impact that I think ultimately these organizations and businesses like yourselves are trying to do.
Yeah, it could be very emotional in that sense. So I agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. So I wanted to ask you now my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. We're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So Jordan, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Yeah, I can sit here with the cliche, leadership and lead by example, and of course that's all it. But I'm not a big believer in titles. I kind of like to poke fun at myself when it makes me uncomfortable when a staff member introduces me as CEO. Uh, Even though our revenue reached about 85 million this past year on a run rate, at the high point about 90 employees, I still feel like we're a small business, and so the CEO part is a little weird for me. But I tell people, hey, I'm chief email officer, uh, in that sense. But I really I wake up every morning, and my question to the staff is, what do you need from me today? What tools do you need from this organization to be successful in your role?
I love that, and I think that I was talking to somebody I believe, and they said sometimes the most powerful thing that you can do is actually the questions that you ask, and I love that question because it really gets down to what I think is the key about being a CEO, entrepreneur, business owner. I too, it just depends on whatever that title is, but I think it gets down to how can you help people to go farther. And a lot of times it's asking and being there and being able to answer and do those things for people. But if you don't ask that question, you don't provide a culture or that opportunity for them to answer, then how well are you actually leading and how much of an impact are you ultimately having?
Sure, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. I love that, Jordan. And of course, I appreciate that. I appreciate your time even more. So, what I want to do now is pass you the mic, so to speak, just see if there's anything additional that you can let our readers and listeners know. And of course, how best people can get a hold of you and find out about all the awesome things you and your team are working on.
You got it, man. Awesome. Jetagency.com. We're a premier private aviation company. We've got veteran industry leaders on our team. We got a great product that we've put together. We put it together from scratch. I tell people it's not. Our slogan is all membership, no fees. Private aviation can be a very convoluted process of buying, and I do not envy our clients because it's difficult to understand the different products and that are available in the private aviation space. So we really break it down very simple. It's an hourly rate, no extra fees, all membership. We're going to take you to F1 suites. We're going to have great experiences. We're not sponsoring the Super Bowl. We're not sponsoring horse races. We are taking those dollars and putting it right back into the client experience, not taking your dollars and doing ridiculous marketing campaigns. You can reach me, Jordan B at jetagency.com. I will respond within 9 minutes to your email. So, love to hear from you guys. We are hiring and expanding. We've been profitable at Jet Agency since day one. So, really appreciate the opportunity to lead this organization.
Yeah, we appreciate your time. And of course, we're going to have the links and information in the show notes as well, too, so that everybody can get a hold of Jordan and the team and all the awesome things that they're doing. But I truly appreciate you, obviously, again, taking time out today. But I appreciate even more, the vulnerability that you talked about, and being able to kind of talk about that journey. And I think when you see people that are successful and doing so many phenomenal things as you and your team are doing, we sometimes don't see how those things are happening. So I appreciate you sharing that with us today. And of course, I appreciate you making sure that you are, putting the client experience at the top of the list and make sure that you are creating that for your clients. It's such a great reminder for us. And of course, I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Awesome, man. You too. Thank you, guys.